He was a nobody. He was worth nothing. Every time he called me and he was drunk, I would just try to get him off the phone. He just rambled drunken nonsense. He sat at home drinking, alone most nights. He was a whiskey man. Betrayed. Furious. Yes, both of those. In the end, happiness came when I let it go. Welcome to Extraordinary Stories Podcast. Hey, how are you? Are you well? Are you good? I am. Alrighty, so this episode, well, it doesn't fall under the Survivor series that's been happening recently. This is a change of pace. Let's mix it up. I'll come back to the Survivor series at some point, but for just now, a different kind of story. Now, this one, it's got sort of echoes, I think, of stories I've told before. Think back to Hetty and the not buying soap story that I did a while ago. Think those kind of vibes. You might be on the right lines. Alright, so just before we get to the story, let's do some shout outs. Alright, the first shout out goes to Ginger Dawson James. Why, hello there, Ginger. Hello. You said you felt like you were, or like I was your brother from another mother. Maybe. I think we share a lot of the same opinions, Ginger. So hello. Kelly Ann Morgan. Kelly Ann was getting her gallbladder removed. Well, I hope that it is all okay. Carla Gray. Hello, Carla. Liberty Greer. Amazing name. Hello, Liberty. Get this for a name. Tracy Savvy Leaf. I mean, come on. That is brilliant. Hello, Tracy. Kimberly Niles Mountain. I mean, what is with everybody having a fabulous name? Kimberly Niles Mountain. She was doing a bit of a sing-along in the car with me. Yeah, and I think, Kimberly, I think you've inspired me that I am going to do a sing-along episode. It's going to be wonderful. Mary Duffy. Hello, Mary. Mary has the honour of being they've got this weird thing on Facebook now. I don't know if you've seen it, but like in a group you can, like, everyone's got like a sort of status. Mary is down as a rising star in the Facebook group. Don't really know what that means, but hello, Mary, and thank you for getting in touch. Jessica Gore. Thank you for your support on Patreon, Jessica. I cannot thank you enough. Lisa Mains, thank you for your support on Patreon. Honestly, I'm so amazed by anyone who gives anything on Patreon. I really am, so thank you. Next one, I hope I'm saying it correctly. Jean Zisman. Jean, your gorgeous emails. I haven't replied yet, but I will. Thank you for your gorgeous emails. And finally, Kate Much. Hello, Kate. How you doing? Okay, the final two. Marsha Hale. Now, Marsha was out shopping, as you do, and she saw a calendar, which she thought I might like. She took a photo of it and sent me to it, and sent it to me in an email, and it's called Kilty Pleasures. It's basically half-naked men in kilts. Thanks, Marsha. Much appreciated. And Frank Pinter. Right, Frank's the final shout out. Frank got in touch and first of all I thought I was being sent a death threat, but I wasn't. Frank said, "You will be sorry." And I was like, oh no, what have I done? I've said something really wrong, or I've upset someone. He said, "I'm an old timer and I still get a phone bill," which sort of made me go, I remember at some point, I can't remember what episode, cannot remember what story, but yeah, at some point I did say, who the hell in the world still gets a phone bill? Well, turns out Frank Pinter still gets a phone bill. So I'm sorry, Frank, that I said that. But thank you for listening, and thank you for enjoying the podcast. Alright, shout outs over. Okay, shall we get to the story? Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Okay, let's discuss a man called William Post. Old Willie Post. Old Willie Post. It doesn't sound quite right. It just makes me think of like old Willies that no one wants to see. Old Willie. So he went by the name of Bud to his friends and family. Bud was born in Erie, Pennsylvania. I'm not saying Pennsylvania is Erie, I'm saying that's the place he was born, and it was 1939. Bud's early life gets described as a hard knock life. And now, do not worry yourself. I am not about to launch into a chorus of Hard Knock Life from Annie. And I'll tell you why. I hate Annie. It is the worst thing that has ever been made. It's awful. It's actually awful. Beyond that, it's actually creepy. It's so creepy. Every time that it's always on at fucking Christmas, every time I see that little ginger orphan, I'm like, get this out of my sight, because it's just making me want to vomit. Oh, it's creepy. Oh, I don't like it. Don't like it at all. But the reason that Bud's life was called a hard knock life is because that he was born into a very, very poor family. So he had his mum, he had his dad, he had 2 brothers and a sister. And they're just not a wealthy family. at all. They're living in Pennsylvania and they're just not got very much money. Now, at age 8, Bud's mother, she dies unexpectedly. And that leaves Bud's dad with the kids to look after. So Bud's dad, deciding he couldn't cope, he just decided, nah, I cannot cope with raising kids on my own. I just can't do it. He puts all of his children into an orphanage. And let us hope, for Bud's sake, that there are no ginger girls in that orphanage singing and whining. So Bud, he goes to the orphanage, and actually he's sent to the same one that his brother, his older brother Jeffrey, is sent to. And he copes with the orphanage. I mean, there wasn't much of a choice. You just have to cope with it. That's what it is. So he goes through his years. So he gets there when he's 8 years old, and he leaves at about 15 years old. And in that time, it's not the greatest time for Bud. I can't imagine that length of time in an orphanage is. But, Bud copes with it. And it comes the time when he's kicked out. He's sent into the world to become the man that he's going to become. And so, kind of like as life went on for Bud and as he grows up, he starts to just take various different jobs. He's not particularly skilled in anything, so he just goes through a variety of jobs. We'll get to his CV in a minute, which is quite interesting. In terms of relationships, he's 16, 17. As he starts to get towards 18, he starts to meet some different women. And he starts to get married. Now, each of the marriages that Bud goes through, they're very short-lived. No marriage that he goes through lasts any longer than 3 years. And so, by about age 32, Bud has got 5 failed marriages and 10 kids. Wow. Fucking hell. 10 kids by like age 32. That's a lot of kids. Now, over the years, he sort of keeps a bit of contact with his brothers and his sister. But it's intermittent. It's fleeting. There's not really a great contact with them. They're out there. They're out there somewhere. So like I said, Bud's career was just very much take the job that you can get at that moment and just earn some money. So, Bud has got quite the CV. He worked as a cook, a truck driver, a painter, a waiter, and a fisherman. Okay? These are all good. These are all fine. But this is the best. This is the best. Bud also worked in the travelling circus. He worked in the travelling circus and carnival business. Yes, Bud. Yes. I would love that job. I would love to work in the travelling circus. That would be ideal for me. Do you know this? Well, no, you won't actually, because I've never said it out loud. I have been trying for months, and it's no exaggeration, I mean months, to do an episode on circus deaths / circus secrets. And I'm sure, oh God, there have got to be some bizarre, mental stories from inside the circus. The problem is this: where do you find these stories? Where, I ask? Why, God, why? Where are these stories? The problem is, right, I think I've discovered this as I've tried to sort of look at certain things to find the story. The problem is, when you look at like places like the circus, it's very closed down. In terms of, people do not really share their stories, because those are like a sort of society where no matter what's happened between them, no matter what's happening in there, it gets this kind of like bubble around it where the stories are never told. Other places that I've looked and wanted to tell stories about are the Magic Circle. Can you find stories about the Magic Circle? Can you fuck? I have looked and looked and looked, and again, it's just because it's one of those places where there's like a protective bubble around it, and it's really hard to penetrate that. Also, I'm really keen to speak to ex nuns. I would love to speak to an ex nun, but they're hard to find. They're so hard to find. If anybody knows, if you know anyone from the circus, the Magic Circle, or you know an ex nun, send them my way. I will chit chat to them and I will get you an episode about it. So, basically, what I'm saying is, Bud had a very varied set of jobs. And now Bud was not good with money. Not in any way. Kinda not really Bud's fault. Like, he was never taught to be good with money. He was forever skint, broke, brasso, financially embarrassed, however you choose to put it. Bud never was able to manage his money. So he is still living in Pennsylvania, where he was born. And in 1988, Bud is hard up. He is really hard up. And what he's doing is he's managing to claim a little bit of state help. He's gotten a little bit of help from government funding, and it comes in the form of disability benefits. What was Bud's disability? Well, it's all quite unclear. I think Bud was just one of these faking it to get the money types. He wasn't above pretending something was wrong in order to make sure that he got a little bit of money coming in. Bud had also taken to writing bad checks that which could never be cashed, and not really paying his rent. So this ends up really bad for Bud, where he's got zero. Basically, he's got zero money. And so there's a period of time where he moves in with his sister. He has absolutely nowhere else to go other than live with his sister. They don't have a particularly wonderful relationship, but it's this or Bud is living on the streets. So his sister, right, she takes him in and she's like, right, come on, brother who is terrible with money, I'll give you a hand, right? I'll put you up in this house, I'll give you food, I'll give you somewhere to live, and we'll try together to get you back on your feet. Does Bud take this as an opportunity for him to move on in life, get a bit of money behind him, or try something to just move his life on? No. What Bud does is he basically lies around drinking all day long. He eats all of his sister's food in the house. He becomes the worst guest that you would ever want to stay in your house. He doesn't contribute a single penny. He just expects his sister to pay for everything. What makes me laugh is Bud manages to run up a phone bill while staying with his sister, which costs $3,000, which his sister is left to pay. Right now, I've got to ask this question. Who is Bud calling? What phone calls is he making that it's costing $3,000? I mean, this will become evident as we go on. Bud didn't have a great deal of meaningful relationships in his life. So who the fuck is Bud phoning where it costs $3,000 in a phone bill? Is he phoning like, I don't know, there's no answer to it because I can't find anywhere what that was, but is it sex lines? Is he calling like these really expensive sex lines? I don't know. Is he just calling like random countries? Is he like phoning China and being like, hello, it's Bud from Pennsylvania. Let's talk. I don't really understand where the $3,000 in a phone bill comes from. It seems insane. So his sister, she kicks him out. She kicks him out because she's like, do you know what? You're eating all my food. You're just lying about, drinking all day, and you're costing me $3,000 in a phone bill. Get out of my house. So, okay, fair enough. Now, it's a pretty lonely life for Bud. He doesn't have many friends. Even though he's got 10 kids, they kind of don't really want much to do with Bud, because he is a waster to them. He's just not really worth the time and the effort. He can't give them anything. He's not got much to offer anybody in life. So he moves into a small, tiny little apartment on his own, and he spends his time drinking alone most nights. He was a whiskey man. And sometimes when he got very, very lonely and very drunk, he would call up his kids. Now, they're all adults by this point. They're all living their own life. But he'd call them up and he would be their impatient dad on the phone, demanding to speak to them. And they'd be like, oh God, drunk dad is phoning again. Great. And they had no real time for him. One of his daughters would say this of Bud. He was a nobody. He was worth nothing. Every time he called me and he was drunk, I would try to get him off the phone. He just rambled drunken nonsense. So here's Bud living in his tiny little apartment in Pennsylvania, and the landlord who owned the block of flats was called Anne Carpick. Bud had met her in a bar, and she had said to Bud, I have a very, very small property if you want to rent it. And so Bud had. Anne quite often gets called Bud's occasional girlfriend. Now, I think we all know what that means. I think Bud and landlord Anne were doing the bedroom shuffle. occasionally. I mean, not a serious relationship in any way, but they were intimate. So, I mean, she was the closest thing he had to a girlfriend at that time. Okay, so let's go to the day that we need to know about in 1988. Bud's rent is due, and he has no money to give Anne, his landlord. So, what does he do? Well, he finds a piece of jewellery. Now, it's a ring. It's not an expensive one, it's one from his previous failed marriages, but this ring is what he has, and he takes it to a pawnbroker. The pawnbroker offers Bud $40 for the ring. Bud says, "Hang on a minute. I want more than $40. Are you kidding me? I want more than 40." He tries somewhere else and they offer him less. So he goes back to the first one and he says, "Right, okay. If $40 is the most I'm going to get, that's what I'll take." Now, does Bud at this point think, I should give the money to Anne in some sort of small rental payment? A small token of what I owe? Oh, well, no. Bud has another idea entirely. He thinks, why not take the $40 and buy 40 lottery tickets? Okay, right, Bud, we will go with you on this decision and see where we go from here. So he goes to the shop, he buys 40 $1 lottery tickets, and he goes back to his small apartment. A while later, in that same day that he's bought the tickets, he knocks on the door of his landlord, Anne, and when she answers the door, Anne, remembering, is his occasional lover, he presents to her 20 lottery tickets. Okay, she says, what the hell is this? And Bud explains, look, I can't afford the rent this month, but if you win anything on these lottery tickets, you keep it. Okay, you keep it and you take it off of the rent that I owe you. She's like, okay, Bud, right, fine, whatever. And she closes the door on Bud. Well, I'm saying she closes the door on Bud. I don't know. Maybe they had themselves a little slap and tickle first. I just used the phrase slap and tickle. Oh my god. Is it the 1970s? Anyway, there's now 40 tickets that Bud has bought for the Pennsylvania lottery. And it's one of those ones, do you know, like when it's like the biggest draw ever? It's one of those ones where it's like, it's the mega millions, it's the big millions. I'm just, I'm describing that badly. But you know the thing I'm talking about, where it's always like, they always want to advertise it as like, it's such a fortune that's never been such a big fortune. I'm just going to derail this slightly and tell you about when I went to New York last year, right? It was the same thing. It was the biggest ever New York lottery. It was something stupid like 80 million or something when I was there in New York, right? So I went to the nearest like little shop from where I was staying, the little 5 and 9, 9 to 5, what I don't know, whatever it's called, right? The little like yeah, just a little shop. I got to the counter and I said, "Can I buy a lottery ticket?" And the guy looked at me and he said, "What?" And I said, "A lottery ticket." And he was like, "Sorry, what?" So I started to get like hot and like stressed. And I was like, "Am I saying the wrong word? Am I saying the wrong thing?" Because he was totally not understanding what I was saying. I was like, "What? What's happening here?" I was like, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'd had the odd beer or six by this point. And I was like, but maybe I'm just not really being very clear. So I tried again, right? So I was like, lottery ticket. So by now, right, there's two members of staff standing in front of me. And they're looking at me like, what language is this guy speaking? I mean, I know I'm Scottish, but come on, it's not that hard to work out. It's not that much of a problem. So they start giving me, right, things that they think that I want. So I'm saying, I'm saying lottery ticket. The guy hands me a lighter to light cigarettes. I'm like, no, it's not a lighter. I'm looking for the lottery. Then he gives me a newspaper. Again, I'm like, no, I don't. A newspaper's not what I want. Then, right, I try for a third time. Lottery. He gives me a bottle of rum. He puts it down on the counter. How the fuck you get from lottery to bottle of rum? I have no idea how you make that, right? So I'm about to give up at this point because I'm really hot, stressed, and a bit like I just need to get out of this shop. It's the whole thing's been a disaster. I don't even really care about the lottery and whatever. And this woman, this absolutely brilliant woman, shouts from the back of the queue. Now she must have been about 90 years old. She shouts, "Oh, for God's sakes, he's saying lottery. Why can't you understand him?" And the guy literally goes, "Oh, the lottery. Right, sure. Here you go. Here's the ticket." I'm like, what? What was what was so difficult about that? Like, did I have to say it to you in the most New York accent for you to at all understand what I was actually trying to say? Well, thank God for that woman. However, I did not go on to win the New York lottery. I'm sad to say. Anyway, back to Bud. Bud is sitting in his little lonely apartment with his 20 tickets and he turns on the lottery draw. And as the numbers start to get revealed on the screen, Bud writes them down. Now he writes them down so that what he can then do is check his 20 tickets at his leisure rather than trying to check them all at once. So he's got his numbers, and at first he goes through them, and it's nothing. Not even a number. The next few, nothing. Bud's thinking, well, this was a waste of my only money that I had. This was the last of it. But, no. Lo and behold, Bud is about to find a ticket where all of the numbers match. Every single one. And Bud realises in that moment he is holding a winning lottery ticket. And he starts to shake. He starts to physically shake because he cannot believe it. And he double checks it. And he checks it again. Does he have the numbers right? Are they correct? Yes. Do they definitely match his ticket? Yes. So he calls the lottery number and he tells them he thinks he has a winning ticket. And they say, yes, if you have these numbers, then yeah, you've won. And they tell Bud just how much he has won. $16.2 million. Wowzers. A lot o' money. Bud has gone from 0 in his bank account to 16 million in a heartbeat. So, it's a big shock for Bud, but it's also for him. He's thinking, this is it. This is it now. This is the opportunity for me to no longer have to work shitty, rubbish jobs where I have to be paid this, and no more do I need to get state benefit from disability allowance when I don't even really have a disability. Or, you know what I mean? He's thinking, no more scrimping and saving. No more do I have to do it because I've now got all the money. So now, everyone will know this, but there's two ways you can go with your lottery winnings. You can either opt for a massive payout at the beginning, so here's all your money at once, or you can get it annually, so you can get a payment annually, and so over the years you're just receiving an amount of your winnings. I mean, I really feel that's the better option, isn't it? Well, it would be for me. I don't know. Other people are different with money or whatever. I feel like if you handed me 16 million, I would just spunk it up the wall. I really would. I'd just be like, oh, the money in the world. So, Bud, he goes for the annual payouts. So, what this means for Bud is that he would receive 26 annual payments of $500,000. Ooh, lovely. Right, so he gets his first one, right? His first one comes in, and he, well, you know, he goes a little bit crazy. He buys lots of cars to start with. He buys like really old, expensive cars like Cadillacs. He buys a boat. Great. Okay. So he's got this money now. And it's looking good for Bud. It's looking sweet. Or is it? Do you remember I told you Bud is not good with money? Well, his story is going to prove that. Maybe he was just a bit overwhelmed in that first month and spent a lot of money. Because that's a lot, and you know, that's an awful lot of money to hit your account. If you've got nothing and then all of a sudden you've got $500,000 sitting in your account, that's a lot of money. So I think Bud can be forgiven for going a bit crazy in the first year. I think he can be a bit forgiven for going a bit nuts. When he wins the lottery, he phones his daughter, the one I mentioned earlier. And he says to her, I've won the lottery. And she thinks, it's awful, but she thinks that her dad has gone insane. And that actually he's making a phone call from within an institution for the insane. She thinks, oh God, he has finally lost it. He's crossed into absolute madness, and now he thinks he's won the lottery. To prove those who thought that Bud was crazy, this is what he does. He hires the fanciest restaurant that he can find, and he throws himself a big party. A huge, expensive party. Free alcohol, free food. He hires some amazing entertainment, and he's doing it in the fanciest of places. This is so what I would do. I get Bud's vibe. I'd literally do the same thing. I'd be like, I want a big party and I want everyone there. And I literally would like walk in to the party in like a suit made of diamonds and be like, hello, I've arrived and I'm in my diamonds. And then I'd be like, okay, everyone, you're going to sit back and listen to me singing through my diamond microphone. Have you ever seen, right? If you've never seen it, God, please go look at it because it's so ridiculously stupid and funny. Ever seen the clip of Mariah Carey being pushed on a chair from room to room? It's so mental. It's Mariah Carey refusing to walk from one room to the next. So basically, her like helpers, her assistants, they put her in a wheelie chair and they push her from room to room because Mariah couldn't possibly walk anywhere. She couldn't dare walk anywhere, so she has to be pushed. That would so be me if I won 16 million. I mean, I would love to say I'd give it all to charity. Of course I would. But I really wouldn't. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Of course I would. Of course I would. Or would I? So he buys a Florida restaurant for his brother and his sister to run. I mean, I think that's really kind. Rather than give them money, what Bud does for his family is he buys them investment opportunities. He buys them things. So he goes, see, rather than me just hand you cold hard cash, I'm going to buy you a restaurant because you can make this something really successful and you'll have money coming in for years and your kids will have money coming in for years. Do you know what I mean? Like, just like rather than hand them over the cash. I think that's pretty sensible. He he buys a plane. It's maybe a little less sensible. Could Bud fly a plane? No, but he just wants one. Okay. Bud is really trying to prove to people that, you know, the people who always called him a nothing, a nobody. He's trying to prove to them that now he has money, he's someone. I think it's sad. I think it's just so sad that Bud felt that the only validation he could get was really from, you know, going, well, I can afford things, I can buy things. You know, that's a real sadness in that. I think it's a real sadness. Within 1 month of getting his winning lottery payout, Bud is in debt. I mean, this is his first payment and he's already in debt. But let's remember, he's going to get these payments over time, so maybe he'll be okay. He's just overspent on the first one. He's just gotten a little bit carried away. He's just, you know, done that thing where we've all fucking done this. We've all done this. You know, you just get your wages and you just go a wee bit like, I'm gonna go spend crazy. And you start spending lots of money and then you're like, oh shit, I've got the rest of the month to go. Fuck. It's that, right? But on a bigger level. He's obviously buying planes. I'm not buying planes out of my monthly wage, I can assure you. But you know that thing. You see, you kind of do understand it in a way because you're like, yeah, we've all been a wee bit spend happy when your wages come in, and you think you can. Oh, do you know what? I'm actually just gonna have like a really quite expensive lunch today or whatever. Whereas the rest of the month, you're like, I'm quite happy to eat my 3-day-old beans. They're lovely. When the next payment arrives in the next year, Bud is already in a system where he's having to pay off some of the money that he spent in the first year. So he's kind of already in this sort of cycle of debt, right? But bearing in mind that there is a big figure here, there is a big figure. So, hopefully what Bud can do is kind of turn that around. Now, I'm just going to rest this little fact here for you to have in your mind. His landlord and the occasional girlfriend, she was going around town and she was saying this: I really hope Bud has been wise enough to put half of his money aside for me. After all, he did promise me that I would get half of anything if we won. That day when he came without the rent money, I accepted those tickets and I accepted those terms. Let's remember Anne, the landlord, because she will play a part later in Bud's story. Was Bud thinking about Anne in any of this? You can literally bet your last bottom dollar he was not thinking of Anne at all. Right, so see, at this point I'm thinking, Bud, please put your money into something good. Do something good with your money. And he was receiving like financial advice from people, but I think the fundamental problem here was Bud was receiving almost too much advice. Like, one person would have an opinion on how he should spend it. Someone was saying, invest it, do this. Other people were saying, spend it, because then you can sell your things later on and then you'll make double back. And I think for someone who's always been shit with money, I think Bud's head was a bit frazzled by the whole experience. I don't really think he knew actually how to deal with what was in front of him. So, in the sort of doesn't really know what to do, he just goes spending crazy, and I mean crazy. He was literally just walking into any shop and buying everything. He was walking into clothes shops, like men's clotheswear shop, and just going, I want it all. I want everything. I want 17 shirts like this. I want all these suits. I want all of those boots. I want all those belts. Give me everything. And like, somebody needed to intervene and be like, Bud, you don't need 17 leather belts, mate. Nobody needs 17 leather belts. Like, what are you doing with that? But he couldn't. It became like a sort of impulsive thing for Bud. He starts going into like furniture stores and just being like, I want it all. I want that couch. I want that seat. I want that wardrobe. I want this. I want that. And just spending money like a madman. He bought, get this, 35 cars. And what kind of cars did Bud buy? He bought Cadillacs. 35 of them. For fuck's sake, somebody needed to just sit Bud down and get him to just chill out. Now, did Bud have the money in his account to buy 35 Cadillacs? No. But here was the thing. All of these companies were saying, it's okay. You get 16 million in the bank. We know about you. You're that guy that won 16 million on the lottery. We know you're good for the money in the future, Bud. So we're going to give you these cars. We're going to give you 35 cars right now. You own them. You can just pay us up as you go. Right, for a start, that's very dangerous. It's very, very dangerous. But secondly, who needs 35 fucking cars? I, like, I can't, who needs 35 cars? It's insane. It's insane. Someone please intervene at this point and help Bud. Does that happen? No. Within 3 months of winning the lottery, Bud has spent $2 million. Please remember, Bud is only receiving 500,000 a year in his payments that he set up. So already, within 3 months, he's in debt to himself. Which, I mean, it seems insane, but he's already overspent on the next few years' amounts of money that are going to be coming in. I think it's just tragic that at this point, there was nobody in Bud's life who could really intervene and just say, stop it. Stop now. You need to stop spending now. Let's get this in check before it runs away from us, before it becomes a disaster. Let's just get this in check. Connie is a waitress in a bar that Bud often goes to. Now Connie, and I feel like I have to fight her corner here. Connie, she wasn't a very money orientated person. In fact, her and Bud, they'd had a little bit of fun before he won the lottery. They'd kind of been seeing each other on and off. But now, rich beyond his wildest dreams, Bud decides that he wants to marry Connie. And when it comes to money, Connie says, look, I'm not after your money. This is not what I want. I'm happy to marry you, but I don't want to live, in a way that makes you think that I want your money. But he comes up with this idea of a prenup. He says, look, should we divorce, you will receive $50,000 a year from me. And it's his idea. And so, she signs this prenup. Bud and Connie, they buy a mansion in Pennsylvania. Again, Bud is slightly writing a check that he can't cash at the moment, but it's okay because he has millions in the bank. So him and Connie, they move into it. The mansion, it's insane. It has 20 rooms. It has a pool. It's got taps made of gold. This is this is big. This is a really big posh mansion. But they can afford it because there's all the millions in the bank, and Bud's just waiting for the next $500,000 payout that he's going to get. Over time, the weight of it all begins to hit Bud quite hard. And what starts to happen is that, everyone who Bud knows and who has never helped him when he was really poor, they all start calling him and asking him for a bit of money. They all start calling him up and saying, oh, would it be alright to just borrow $2,000 here, $5,000 here? Can you help me out with just a little bit of cash? And Bud starts to get a bit angry about this. I think I can kind of understand that. I'd be like, get the fuck. You wanted nothing to do with me when I had no money. Get out of my face now that I suddenly have money and you want some of it. Suddenly all the family members, all the kids who had no time for Bud, they're all appearing. They're all starting to want to get their share of Bud's money. So he's living in his mansion with Connie, his new wife, and Bud has to keep changing his phone number because he's basically being inundated with people phoning constantly, asking him for money. Poor man, poor Bud. What does it start to do to him? Well, to start with, it makes him quite angry. It makes him quite protective of his money. But what starts to develop is a little bit of paranoia for Bud. He starts to get the idea that everybody is after his money. I don't know, maybe you would go a bit paranoid. Maybe you would start to feel a little bit crazy if everyone was coming at you asking for cash all the time. He starts to get convinced that he's going to be broken into in his mansion. And so what he does is he installs surveillance cameras all around the house. What he does is he puts them all around the house. He's got all these surveillance cameras, and he builds like a wall of TV screens so that he can watch his property all the time and make sure that nobody is trying to break in and steal money. The escalation into believing that he's going to be robbed or that people are going to come and steal from him, it happens really quickly. He starts to become so paranoid that he's got 14 TV screens in his bedroom to monitor the house. 14 TVs, man, that would give me the most severe anxiety in the world, just even trying to keep track of that. So Bud is watching the screen one day, waiting for someone to just break in and try and steal from him, when he sees an intruder. He sees a figure on his property, and this figure, which he can make out is male, comes through Bud's land and walks up to the garage. This figure comes through the garage and tries to make its way into the house. So for Bud, this is the confirmation that he needs that people are trying to steal from him. He's thinking people will go to the lengths of breaking into my house now to steal money from me. However, Bud is completely wrong in this case. It's actually his son-in-law, but in his drunken, hazy state, he hasn't realised that he actually knows who this is. And what he does is he grabs for his gun. He makes his way to the garage, and as his son-in-law tries to enter the house, Bud raises his gun and he shoots. Luckily, Bud was drunk and, well, not a very good shot, and he misses. He actually fires over the head of his son-in-law. When he realises his mistake, he goes on a drunken tirade about how he was convinced it was a burglar. And people are always trying to steal from him, so he has to keep guard all the time. Thank God, Bud was A, drunk, and B, a bad shot, because he would have been looking at a prison sentence at that point. The police, they come to the house and they try to sort of make sense of the situation, and they go, alright, okay, you thought it was a burglar, it was actually your son-in-law, we'll just have a little look around. And when they look around, what they find is they find 12 guns in Bud's house, and they are all loaded. Bud has tried his best, though, you know, well, you're getting the sense. Bud's not the brightest spark. He'd not really hidden them in great places. They were actually quite visible to police. So police were like, okay, we've now got 12 guns, and they are all loaded. So, rich or not, lottery winner or not, you he didn't have licenses for these guns. You can't just have 12 guns in your house, and neither can you just go shooting at people walking through your garage because you think that they're trying to steal from you. So, Bud is he's quite shaken by the whole experience. He's quite upset by the whole entire thing. Because for him, he thinks all I'm doing is protecting the money that people are trying to steal from me. And actually, I think he's right. I think people are maybe trying to steal from him. I just don't think that people are walking up into his property to try and steal from him. I think that's where he's got it wrong. This incident, well, all it does is it adds to the complete belief that friends and family have that Bud has just lost his marbles. He just lost his marbles entirely. The incident with the attempted shooting of the brother-in-law, Bud is at home. He's counting the cash that he has in the house, because as well as money in the bank, Bud likes to keep little piles of cash lying around the house. So he's going through it. It's 1,000. Oh, I've got the next couple of hundred. I've got this. Bud suddenly goes, I'm missing $5,000. And Bud thinks it can only be one thing. That night, when the police were called, the police have clearly stolen from me $5,000. No, Bud, they didn't. Where your $5,000 has gone, I don't know. Maybe you've just done your calculations wrong, but he's convinced. Bud's like, I had an extra 5,000 in this house, and now it's gone. So he calls his lawyer and he says, I want to sue the Pennsylvania police. They have stolen $5,000 from my house. And really quickly, that just falls apart. There's no evidence. There's no evidence can be found. And the reason is, well, there is no evidence. There just isn't any evidence. It didn't happen. But Bud is convinced that it did. But it didn't. Nobody stole that money from Bud. He got mixed up. He just didn't know what money he had lying around. Now, things are beginning to break down between Bud and his wife Connie. Bud is drinking more and more heavily, and Connie is tired of the fact that they argue constantly. That's all that they do. All that they do is fight. Bud gets drunk. She has a drink to try and deal with Bud, and they just end up in arguments every single day, every single night. Fight after fight after fight after fight. Bud has pretty much all but moved into the bedroom of the house. He's now watching these 14 TV screens, terrified that he's going to be robbed. And Connie is going, I can't live like this. Like, I cannot live like this. And you know, I get that. I get that from her perspective. I also just think at this point, it's worth pausing and saying, it's so sad that Bud's just not enjoying the money that he's won. I mean, this money has pushed him towards becoming a nervous wreck. And between the fact that he doesn't get on with Connie and his own kids thinking he should probably be locked up or turned over to a mental health professional, who the hell can Bud actually talk to? Who can he turn to? Who does he have in his life? Well, there is his brother, Jeffrey. Now, Jeffrey is one of the siblings he had always kept in contact with. Do you remember I said years ago when they were sent away to an orphanage, Bud and his brother Jeffrey, they went to the same one. Now, see when the lottery win happened, Bud made sure that his brother Jeffrey was set up with money. What he didn't do was, he didn't hand his brother, and in fact he sort of did this for all of his siblings, he didn't hand them cold hard cash. He didn't say, here's 200,000 or here's whatever. What instead he did was, he bought them something that they could then grow and let that be lucrative. So he bought them businesses. He bought his brother a car dealership to run, a very lucrative car dealership, and he also bought him a restaurant in Florida. Both really good financial investments. And what Bud was doing there was, he was making sure that his brother would always have some form of wealth, some form of income coming in. Was that enough for Bud's brother Jeffrey? No, it was not. He wanted more. For some unknown reason, Jeffrey believed that his brother was going to give him a large amount of cash. Now, that had never been discussed. Bud had never said, I'm going to give you a large amount of cash. And as the years passed, Jeffrey started to get angry that he wasn't getting his large amount of cash. And so he starts to become increasingly annoyed with Bud. But it was never the deal. The deal was never that Bud would give you cash. The deal was, well, even the deal, Bud just said, I'm not going to give my family cold hard cash. Instead, I'm going to buy them something they can invest in. Something that in the future, money will come back to them. I'm not just giving them money. Jeffrey, not happy with this. He confronts his brother Bud and he says, hey, you told me I was going to get a large amount of money. And Bud says, no, I didn't. He says, I never said that. I bought you businesses to run. I bought you a car dealership. I've bought you a restaurant. You should have plenty of money. So, does Jeffrey step back from that and go, oh, actually, yes, he's right? No, does he? Fuck. What does Jeffrey do? Well, ask yourself this. What would you do? Would you think, well, actually, do you know what? My brother did buy me 2 businesses. And I'm financially okay. And then just go, thanks, that's actually great. I think I would. I think I probably would. But, well, no, that's not what Jeffrey does. Jeffrey, instead, decides he's going to hire a hitman to kill Bud and his wife, Connie. Yeah, he wants Bud dead. He wants Connie dead. He wants his hands on Bud's money. What a lovely brother. You were both sent to an orphanage. You grew up together. He buys you businesses worth, I might add, worth $170,000. That's how much Bud invested in Jeffrey. But Jeffrey's like, I know what I'm going to do. I'm going to kill him. Fucking hell. It's just mad, isn't it? What money does to people. It changes people. It seriously changes people. It's just it's what runs through this whole story. It's just that money just fucks people's brains. And it makes them do mental things. It makes them do crazy things. Horrible things. So Jeffrey has hired a hitman to kill his brother. And the hit is set up. Bud and Connie are to be shot one night at home in the mansion. 5 days before the hit is about to happen, something goes wrong. Jeffrey is arrested by police. Now, not arrested because he put a hit on his brother, but for a completely different reason. It's selling cocaine. Since receiving the 2 businesses from his brother, Jeffrey had found himself a bit of a dealer. Oh yeah, thought he was Johnny Big Boss. He's like walking about selling cocaine, thinking he's some kind of big time dealer, but that had finally caught up with him. So Jeffrey goes to prison and the hit has to go on hold. However, Bud finds out about the hit. And how does he feel? Betrayed? Furious? Yes, both of these. But he also feels vindicated in his theory that everyone is out to get him. Now, I don't think everyone's out to get Bud. I don't think that. But I do think he's right in the sense that people are after his money. People are after his cash. Bud, at this point, begins to kind of spiral out of control, and he somehow, although it's not true, I mean, it's really not true, he convinces himself that his sister, you know, the one who he stayed with and then ran up the $3,000 bill, he convinces himself that she was somehow part of this plot to kill him, and she wasn't. She knew nothing about it. He was convinced that another brother, who he's barely seen for years, was involved. He wasn't. So Bud, at this point, he goes back to his will and he cuts out everybody. He just cuts them out. He just goes, nope, nobody else is getting any money from me. Done. They're all after it. Not a person's getting it. At this point, does Bud think it might be a good idea to move house? To maybe go somewhere else and start over elsewhere? No. Instead, what Bud does is he puts more surveillance on the house. He starts to put more TVs around the house so that he can constantly be watching every bit of the mansion and his property just to make sure that nobody is going to steal from him. Bud's money is spiraling out of control, and each year as it passes, he gets further and further into debt. Now, the mansion at this point, it begins to need work. It's really neglected by Bud and by Connie, and Connie is at her absolute wit's end with her drunken, paranoid husband, but he cannot stop spiraling further and further into debt. No matter, I feel bad for Bud. No matter what he puts his money into, it just goes wrong, and he ends up losing money all over the place. But here's the thing, at this moment, Bud could still get it back on track. He could. There's a point here where we could turn the story around and Bud could actually come out of this okay. There is still close to 11 million in a bank account in winnings that he has yet to collect. So okay, so great, fantastic. There's still 11 million. Brilliant. We're talking 7 years, and in that time, he's spent 5, 6 of it. Okay, that's okay. But there's still 11 million. He can change this. Or can he? Remember Anne, the landlord? Remember her? The one who he gave the 20 tickets to that night. Well, she decides years and years later, that she is decided that she is entitled to some of Bud's millions. Because she says the deal was this. The deal was, when he brought me those tickets, he said, if we win any money, we split it fairly. Now, was that actually the deal that Bud made? No, it wasn't. He never, if you remember, ever said anything about splitting money. What he did was, he handed her those tickets and he said, if you win anything, you keep it for yourself and you take it off of my rent money. But Anne has somehow misremembered this or heard this differently over time. And she has spent years and years thinking, I wonder if a small fortune is going to come my way sometime soon in the form of Bud. And it hasn't. And now she wants her money. Money that she never actually is owed. So one day, Bud's at home. He's watching his, by now, 25 TV screens. He's drinking a bottle of whiskey. And Bud gets a knock on the door. And it's the arrival of an official letter from the courts saying that Anne wants to take Bud to court to rightfully claim her fortune. Come on, can poor Bud not get a break? He can't get a break here. Everybody fucking wants his money. It's awful. They just all want something from Bud. So, they go to court. Court arrives and the judge hears both sides of the story. He hears Bud's side of it. He hears Anne's side of it. Then the judge has to make a choice. Who does he believe? Well, he sides with Anne. He decides that, yes, she should have money. because the deal you made was to split money. And Bud is there going, I never said we would split money. I never ever said that. But she is awarded 6.5 million by the judge. That is a huge dent in Bud's remaining money. It just sends Bud over the edge. He's losing his fortune. He's losing a grip on everything he can't. There's very little that he can control at this moment. You know, everybody fucking wants his money. Things at home with Connie are bad. And, you know, all of this anger, it's just meant that Bud has turned really ugly towards Connie. I mean, the woman who said in the beginning, look, I don't want your fortune. He made her sign the prenup, making sure she'd be fine, but Connie's had enough now of Bud. She just needs to go. She needs to get away. There's a day when they're in the kitchen of the mansion and Bud is really drunk. And an argument breaks out between them. And to end the argument, this is what Bud does. He takes a pistol out and he fires it. Not at Connie, but instead at her bag. A bullet goes right through her purse. And it's at this point Connie goes. She says, I'm out of here. Goodbye, Bud. Because Connie knows he is in such a dark place that the next bullet might just be for her. That was a warning shot that Bud fired into her purse. So she leaves and Bud is now entirely alone and thinking, and this is really important, Bud thinks he's running out of money. He's not, but he begins to spiral downwards. The thing is, he isn't out of cash. There is at least 5 million left, and he's still getting his 500,000 a year. But Bud can't see that. He just thinks he's poor. He thinks he's exceptionally poor. He thinks he is rapidly running out of money. Now, there are an awful lot of bills coming in for things that haven't been paid. The boat, the cars, the mansion, the properties that he's bought for other people, the restaurants he's bought. Yeah, okay, all these bills are coming in, but there is still money to deal with it. But just Bud can't see it. He just thinks, I'm in debt, I'm in debt, I'm in debt, I've got no money, I've got no money, I've got no money. And the truth is, he does have money, but just somebody needs to take control and help Bud see his way through it. In his head, things are so bad that he now starts selling the furniture from his house and trying to raise cash. There's utterly no need for Bud to do this, but that's what he thinks he needs to do. I think it's really sad that it's gotten to a stage where that's what he believes needs to happen, and nobody can step in and go, Bud, you're not that poor. You're actually not that poor. You've still got millions in the bank, my friend. But he can't see it. His daughter, you know, the one who called him earlier on a nobody, which is lovely. Do you know what I mean? Everyone wants to be called that at one point in their life. She's the only one who will go and visit Bud at this point, and when she does, it's bad news at the mansion. Bud has let the house fall into terrible disrepair, and it's starting to fall down around him. The cars, which he hasn't sold, are starting to rot. Lots of rooms are empty where he's sold off loads of the furniture. It's dirty, it's messy, and in amongst all of this is Bud. He's just drinking continually. He's now suffering from severe migraines almost daily. He's having constant headaches. Bud. Now at this point, Bud is going to make a really bizarre decision. And wow, it's really bizarre. He goes to the court and he applies for a license to be able to auction his 6 million that he has in the bank for 2 million in cash. Okay, let's break that down, because when I read this I was like, oh, what the hell are we talking about? So this is what Bud is thinking, right? He's thinking, I've got 6 million tied up in the bank, but it's only going to come at me in 500,000 a year payments. I want 2 million in my hands right now. So he thinks, well, if I actually auction off my 6 million to some rich person who's got 2 million lying around, that person will be making a profit of 4 million and I will have 2 million in cash. I mean, it makes no sense. It makes absolutely no sense. That would be like me going, right, well, I've got £200 in my bank account, but you know, I could really do with like a tenner in my hand right now. So what I'll do is I'll auction off my £200 I've got in my bank account just so I can have a tenner in my hand. I mean, it's insane. It just doesn't make any sense. You're giving away $4 million. He auctions off his millions for 2 million in cash. Oh, but come on. So now he's got $2 million in cash in his hand. Is this going to bode well for him? I don't think so. By the time Bud had paid off all of the debts that he owed, he was left with 1 million. So he's gone from 16 to 1. Bud had either not been advised properly or had thought it through properly. He'd not thought about the tax that he might owe. And so, when the taxman came, Bud lost everything that he had, all of the money. He had to sell off the mansion, which had lost all of its value. He sold off the cars and the boats, and it all went into tax. So, by 2006, Bud is living in a tiny little apartment in Pennsylvania, and he's back to renting. He starts to become unwell. He starts to get breathing difficulties. What Bud was living on was state benefit and nothing else. Every penny was gone. Slowly, bit by bit, his health declines, and in 2006 he dies of respiratory failure. When Bud dies, he is absolutely penniless. There is nothing left of his money. Not long before Bud died, he gave an interview to a newspaper and he said, "When I lost the money, I was the happiest I have ever been. No longer did I have to worry that people were stealing from me. No longer did I have to burden myself with thinking that I owed money to people. I could just be free again." Only a handful of people attended Bud's funeral, and when he died, the newspaper headlines declared, "America's most tragic lottery winner dies penniless." And so ends the story of Bud. Alright, yeah, well, there you go. There's the story of Bud. I think there's lots to take from that. I think there's just loads that I'm so interested in that story. And that I actually just feel like for Bud, I think winning the lottery was the most unfortunate thing that could have happened to him, because I think he might have otherwise just gotten through his life and just, found his way. Maybe I'm wrong, I don't know. I just also think it is that thing of like money just makes people evil. It turns people in a way that it does just do something to people that that you've maybe never seen that bit of them before until money becomes involved. But yeah, his story kind of fascinates me. So anyway, yeah, that's the story of Bud. So that's us. If you want to get in touch, please do. If you want to support the podcast, you can support me on Patreon. Any small amount is welcome. If you want to get in touch with me, you can. I'm on Twitter. I'm on the Instagram. I'm on the Facebook. There's the Facebook group. Just join. It's amazing. You can find me if you wanna. Want to get in touch? Extraordinary Stories Podcast at gmail.com if you want to send me an email. That would be lovely. Okay, well, I hope that you have enjoyed this episode, and I hope wherever you're listening to this, be that a tent, be that up a mountain, be that as you fold your washing, be that as you do the dishes, be that as you drive your car to work. I hope that you've enjoyed listening. Until the next episode, okay? Goodbye.
It didn't affect me really one way or the other. I would imagine from the look on his face, let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over. Let's get it on, let's do it, let's get it over.